And it actually frees your people to think outside the box, to be who they are, and to take risks. Any great company, you cannot have innovation without risk. You cannot have risk unless your people feel the permission to think outside the box and swing for the fence.
Everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider. We're in part 2 of our episode with Fred Johnson, so thanks for tuning back in. We spent part 1, if you recall, going through the foundational principles and approach from Fred's program. A lot of it can be captured in his book series. One of 2 books that he has is apparently working on a third, is The Reality of Change. So it's one of them that if you look around our studio here or even our shelves at EPI, you would find that Fred's book sits in there. I invite everybody to go grab a copy of The Reality of Change and check out the programs that we've been talking about. Why I wanted Fred back on the show to dive into part 2 here is I wanted to start to apply those concepts into the way that we're thinking about our people and culture now at EPI, that we've had 5 years of exposure to his training, and all of our Exit Planning Institute teammates come through his program now, or at least a version of it. One thing, Fred, that has been maybe a unique challenge for us at EPI is that we've embraced your program. And so as employees start to come into our culture, we're teaching your stuff to them and then applying it into the way that we've morphed and lived by it. So I think this year we're actually going through a train the trainer type program at Initiative 1 so that we can further become kind of stewards of your process and methodology. So if you recall from our previous episode, we had this brick wall moment that really was the catalyst for all this change for us. We had one of our teammates, Jocelyn, tell me that 11 people were leaving the company.
Which was 100% of your team.
Which was 100% of the team. And in the coming moments and coming months, as we went through your program and talked and frankly investigated that, why are people leaving? I realized that I had created from 2012 when Dad and I bought the Exit Planning Institute. 2014 is when I came in to run the Exit Planning Institute, all the way through our pivot and into mid-year, say June of 2020. I had created a company, a culture, a decision-making process, core values that were all about me. In fact, if I really challenged myself, I don't know if I ever asked anybody their opinion. I just said, isn't this a great place to live and work, right? Like, this is what it is. And for the time being, for those 2014 to 2020, those 6 or so years, though we had our challenges, the company was growing pretty significantly. But in that moment, I had realized that I had totally built a company around myself and not necessarily what everybody wanted and what everybody was about and lived for. And one of the and I'd like you to expand on this, Fred. One of the teachings that you have in your book is leaders have to become masterful at emotional intelligence. And I had probably very little emotional intelligence in 2020, but you have maybe a dozen different components that you talk about in your teachings. And we were talking about this off air as we kind of ventured in, is you never really arrived at mastering emotional intelligence. It's just like working out, right? If you want to be a star athlete, if you want to be physically fit, for me, one of my goals is to play competitive soccer till I'm 45 years old. I'm 40 now. And you have to continuously work on your body, right? And you have to stay sharp. And I think if you want to be an impactful and significant leader, you have to constantly be fine-tuning and evolving your emotional intelligence. Can you talk to us about why that's so important?
Okay. So So let me start with that. First of all, here's a premise: leadership has changed.
Yes.
For you were describing yourself, and I was sitting here thinking the way I would describe you when I first met you is you were a 1980s leader in a 2025 world.
Yeah.
You know, and the biggest reason for that is that there's a sociological principle, that says as exposure to information and ideas increases, respect for authority decreases. So we've got an entire society who now, because of the internet, has infinite exposure to information and ideas. And what that means is we all begin to see ourselves as having something to offer in about every conversation, every decision. And so authority no longer defines leadership. In fact, if you try to press your authority on me, you're probably going to lose me. Today, so it's no longer what's in your head. It used to be that if I can show you how smart I am and my expertise in the craft, so if you knew what you were talking about and you had the highest level of expertise in the craft, that also made you a leader. So your title and how much you knew defined you as a leader. Today, what we now know, it's the emotional, relational side that matters the most in leadership today. I have seen, so today as a leader, the role of a leader on a team is no longer to be the commander of all of the subject matter, and therefore I'm going to tell you all how to solve the problem, and you guys just do what I'm telling you to do. Today, the mark of a leader is you're like an orchestra conductor.
Exactly right.
You are a connector, and by the way, the orchestra conductor is the only person in that whole area, all those musicians and him or her, the orchestra conductor is the only one that's not making the noise. Mm-hmm. It used to be, no, I'm making the noise. It's all about me. So today, it's about how do I take all these pieces and pull them together and create a result that is greater than what I could have done by myself. Mm-hmm. So that is why today as a leader, you have to be an expert in relationships and creating an emotional environment that people feel included, that they feel inspired, that they feel engaged, and they're bringing their full self to the table.
Yeah.
Now, that is why today the foundation of leadership is emotional intelligence. And let me just describe it very quickly what that is. Emotional intelligence requires these things. Number one, it's the ability to show empathy. It's the ability to listen deeply and to understand where your teammates are in their lives. It's knowing what's going on in their lives beyond the walls of your workplace. It's taking a deep interest in their lives. It's really caring about your teammates. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the kicker. If I really struggle with caring about myself, and I really don't believe in myself, and really doubt myself, and I don't have a healthy relationship with myself, there's no way that I'm going to be able to have a healthy relationship with you. That's the second thing of emotional intelligence. There's always constant evaluation going on.
Exactly.
Okay? Mm-hmm. And you're always, and so in an authority world, your finger is always going like this. Do what you tell, and you're not doing it, and you're not doing it, and you're not doing it. In a emotional, relational world, your finger is always doing this first.
Yeah.
And you're always evaluating what am I needing to change to raise my input, to raise my impact? What do I need to do to raise the ability that people trust me more? What am I needing to do to become an influencer of my team? And so you're always able to receive. Emotionally intelligent leader can receive feedback. Now that doesn't mean they have to take it verbatim, but they have the ability, and they're not so insecure that they just block it off. They're able to receive the information. They're able to reflect on it. Okay, what do I need to learn from this? What are nuggets from this feedback that I really need to look at? And you're not intimidated by that. You don't go into shame and beating yourself up about that. Emotionally intelligent leaders are always looking for feedback. And because they know without feedback, you're going to have blind spots, or there are going to be opportunities that you just can't see that everybody else can see. So it's the ability to show empathy. It's the ability to receive feedback. It's the ability to care for your teammates and to show them that they matter. And it's also the ability to have self-restraint. That when there's a problem, when you just receive some bad news that you just missed your quarterly report, your quarterly goals, you're not going to fly off the handle and lose your composure. It's the ability to restrain your emotional response. It's the ability to stay calm. It's the ability to stay cool and collected. It's the ability to refrain yourself from the worst part of yourself. That is emotional intelligence. We've all been around leaders who are like this emotionally.
I mean, that was me back in 2020.
Well, guess how your team was. Your
the
team,
same way, I
that's
guess,
right.
yeah.
And they got tired of riding the roller coaster. And one of the things that I saw about you is that you were first of all, you developed that environment that your team, and we helped you to do that a team could finally get honest with you because they didn't feel that a big repercussion was going to come down.
Exactly.
So that's where you learned how to receive feedback from them. And they began to feel safe enough to tell you the truth. And you had to receive feedback about, you could be pretty intense sometimes. For you, it was passion. For them, it felt like domination. And so you began to learn how to pull back in those moments and how to count to 50 before you said something, you know?
Yeah.
And so you grew your emotional intelligence like crazy. And that had a direct impact upon the problem-solving ability, the ownership mentality of your people. And there's a reason why your company grew financially so much, because it was a byproduct of all this team now being able to work together at maximum performance.
So let's talk about that. So after coming through your program 5 years later and taking that all into EPI, we define now our culture. If you looked at, again, going back to our value acceleration methodology, we would look at value of a company and the intangible value of a company sitting inside of these 4 C's that make up 80% of your company's worth. 2 of them are human and social capital, which relate directly to what we've been talking about over the past couple of shows together. And we would define that, and frankly, I think this is how I think high-performing companies can really integrate it from a value creation standpoint. We look at now in 4 buckets. So I want to talk through these 4 buckets, and then I'm going to come back to the top, and I want you to talk through it in your way. What I think the audience will find is that we've taken a lot of what you've taught, combined it with our value acceleration methodology and maybe our own twist on things, and have put it into motion. So the first thing I think that we got really good at over the last five years is We have a bucket called mentality. What are all the things that we believe in? What are the things that we all what are all the things that we believe in? We believe in our core values. We believe in this truck accelerators that we expanded on in our previous episode with you. We believe in the value acceleration methodology, not just income generators, but value creators as well. The second bucket is, once you have the mentality, you need to have a vision. And I think many business owners don't share the vision, and they certainly don't share it in short term. So I'm suggesting to business owners that you have that kind of long-term, huge 10-year vision goal. Then you bring it more into focus with a three-year vision. Then you bring it into real focus with a 1-year strategy, and then you have your 90-day sprints. And then on top of that, those are kind of long-term value goals and long-term growth goals. But then you actually share the profit and loss statement with your team and with your employees, teaching them along the way the X's and O's of the business, and really get them tied into what's creating success and what are the contributors to long-term value. So that's vision. The next thing then you have to have some type of rhythm inside of your company. And this is the way that you communicate to everybody. So for us at EPI, at the highest level, we have our executive retreat and then what we call our pre-retreat. So these are off-site, one-day or multiple-day strategy sessions. What I love about the pre-retreat is it allows all 51 of us at EPI to participate in long-term vision planning. Then we have our quarterly renewals on a 90-day basis. We have one-on-ones. We have a weekly Monday morning company-wide meeting. We have dashboards. We have KPIs. Our people are always getting together and frankly, probably over-communicating so that we're always on the same page. And then for me, it all has to result in the last bucket, which is we have to be able to perform at very high levels. So instead of just doing 1-year annual reviews, we do 2-year. We do our twice-a-year reviews. We do a 6-month formal check-in and then a longer session at the end of the year, which is a formalized performance review. We're looking at not necessarily just your roles and responsibilities and your projects, but we're also rating you on if you're demonstrating or living the core values of the company. We do a twice-a-year employee satisfaction survey, so the owners and the executives can take that kind of reflection in and say, are we actually doing what our people want? Is this an organization that's about we and not me? Again, I think, and then always visiting with some of the hard numbers, right? The tangible key performance indicators. And once you have those 4 buckets and you have a deliberate strategy that you're running, 2 other things need to be true. One, you have to have personal purpose. Everybody in the organization have to know what that is. And if they have just started in the organization, they have to be venturing down the path to figuring out what that is, so that if you recall from the previous episode that we part 1 of our series here that we had, they can live out those trust accelerators. They can have be a part of high performing teams and have high levels of communication. So you have to understand personal purpose. And then you have to be on which is a core value for us at EPI, you have to be on a purposeful growth journey, which is kind of what you were just talking about with emotional intelligence, is that you've never kind of arrived. You're always revisiting. You're always evolving. You have this purposeful growth mentality, not just from a business standpoint, but from a business, personal, and financial standpoint. And so we've taken our training with you over the last 5 years and in our EPI way. That's how we inject it into the organization.
And you've made it yours.
And we've put our kind of stamp on it, and then flush it out in the organization every single day. So start back up at the top. So when you hear me talk about mentality, the way we think, how does that relate back to some of your approach and foundations?
So you're talking about 2 things. You're talking about culture and you're talking about principle. Mm-hmm. Culture is the collective impact of how everyone in your company interacts with each other. It's the expectation of the attitude that's expected when they come to work. It's an expectation that we expect you and need for you and require you to be all in. Mm-hmm. If you're a person who comes here just because they need a job, I can tell you they're not going to last at EPI.
No.
Because the expectations are so high that it requires you to bring your full self. And the reason why they can bring their full self is they believe in the principles. The principles are what are our non-negotiable values, and anything that we're never going to consider anything that falls outside of the values of EPI. Your values are who are you as a company. It's the who, and so. And your principles, the greatest companies make decisions by principles, purpose, your values, and then your core critical goals, which is what you would call mission. What are the things that we have to achieve over the next 2 to 3 years to fulfill our purpose?
Yeah.
And so what principles are is as long as we stay within these boundaries, there's nothing we can't do. And it actually frees your people to think outside the box, to be who they are, and to take risks. Any great company, you cannot have innovation without risk. You cannot have risk unless your people feel the permission to think outside the box and swing for the fence. And you've created an environment here that one of the principles here is we expect you to swing for the fence.
Yeah.
And if you strike out, we're not, part of our culture is we're going to reward initiative and we're going to learn from mistakes. We are a learning organization. And you cannot have innovation without learning. But if you have a perfectionist culture that we expect you to swing for the fence, but by golly, you struck out, you're going to get reamed out when you go into the dugout. The next time you ask me to go to the plate and I need a home run from you, I'm going to go, you need to go to that guy.
Hey there, business owners. Are you ready for a game-changing opportunity? Introducing the 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report. Over the past decade, this groundbreaking research has reshaped how we view business ownership and exit planning. This report isn't just another study, it's a deep dive into the evolution of business ownership. It shines a spotlight on the crucial intersection of business attractiveness and owner readiness, revealing the undeniable impact of preparation on achieving successful transitions. With younger generations taking the reins, exit planning is taking on a whole new perspective. Education and awareness about preparing for the future have never been more crucial, and with financial readiness leading the charge, there's a clear opportunity for growth and learning. But here's the kicker. The report shows a surge in exit planning education and understanding, yet many still lack formal transition teams, highlighting the essential role of comprehensive support. So who's got your back? Trusted advisors have evolved from CPAs to financial advisors, making a decade of significant change in support networks. Ready to take the next step towards a successful exit? Dive into the Exit Planning Institute's 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report and start shaping your legacy today. The future is knocking. Are you ready to answer? Discover your readiness level at 2023ownerreadiness.com and take the first step towards a successful and significant exit.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny. 11 actions an owner must take to rapidly grow value and unlock wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
So expand on this perfectionism stuff too, because when I started to put this all together and try to teach and talk about this, right, is I have this fourth box, which is performance, and I talk about like a championship mentality. I want to be the Jimmy Johnson of NASCAR. I want to be the Tom Brady and the Patriots of the NFL. I want to go out and win 7 Super Bowls. And frankly, not only do I want it, Fred, but I also think there's an impact goal on our American society and the work that we're doing at EPI. Is that the fact of the matter is owners are unsuccessful in transitioning their companies, and 57% of baby boomer business owners and 38% of Gen Xers want to exit in the next 5 years. So we have to do things right. And so when I get into performance, though, the pushback and that I'm getting is that, are you talking about being perfect, or are we talking about having these imperfections that we constantly teach and constantly teach and evolve? So you talk about, because you talk a lot about this perfectionism mentality coming out of Initiative One program.
I talk about the difference between perfectionism and commitment to excellence.
Exactly right.
They are not the same. Perfectionism is the best way to describe it is, how do you interpret a mistake? Perfectionism looks at a mistake as a failure. And perfectionism also is there's really only one way of doing things. And that's how the perfectionist sees what you need to do. You can't build a team around perfectionism, because perfectionists expects you to do the way I do it, in the style that I do it, in the timing that I do it. And you're asking your team to become a version of you. And we all have different personalities. We have different styles. And so in a perfectionist culture, you really don't trust anybody else to do it except your way. And people know that, and they don't feel valued. You cannot feel valued in a perfectionistic culture. And so eventually, in perfectionism, when it's really out of control, is when you are judging everyone, and when they're not meeting your criteria, when they're not meeting your judgment, you go into trying to get them motivated by shaming and putting them down and criticizing them. What I've learned is you cannot shame someone up. You can't shame them into. Now it may last. It may last for a day, but you can't do it long term. Commitment to excellence says we are committed to a high standard. But we know that in getting to that high standard, it's not linear. It's a process. And along that way, we're going to fail and we're going to make mistakes. Now, we don't like failure, but we embrace it. And when we fail, we're always going to talk about it. We've got to have a culture that we can talk about our failures. And there can't be anybody that's off limits from that discussion. No one. The person who's off limits from that discussion is what we call the sacred cow that's actually running the company from under the table. And so you're going to talk about it. But so failure, we see that as inevitable, but we also see it as a powerful teaching and learning opportunity. And so you're going to go to that person and you're going to say, okay, first of all, what was the commitment? Well, the commitment was to go to here. That's right. And we ended up here. Now, talk me through why we ended up here instead of here. And by the way, let me show you why it was so important that we end up here. So that they're always understanding that when we don't hit that, here's the implication of that. Here's how we pay for that. Here's how our customers pay for that. Here's how your teammates are impacted. And because your communication, the bucket of communication, you are so good at that, your people understand there's a reason why we have to hit that number. We don't want you to hit that number just because I expect you to hit that number. There's a business reason why we need to hit that number. And so you're always, when someone makes a mistake, it's going to be talked about. What did we learn from it? Okay, what are we going to do differently? And tell me what your plan is to help get there. And so that is commitment to excellence. It is perfectionism is driving your people. Commitment to excellence is inspiring your people, teaching them and helping them to get better in the process. And people want to be inspired. They want to be a part of a culture where I can learn, but someone's not going to beat the crap out of me every time I make a mistake. Yeah. Because after a while, I'm going to quit taking a risk. And so I want you to keep swinging for the fence. But let's look at your stance. Let's work on your stance. And so there's constant evaluation in a commitment to excellence culture. That's why emotional intelligence, again, is so critical.
It's so critical piece.
That's right. You have to have an entire culture that is emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. I mean, because these are hard conversations, right? When we relate it back to the value acceleration methodology, we teach that when an owner is sitting there and somebody's coming in from the outside and looking in, right? We call it from the buyer's perspective. They don't know you. They've read it. They see it. They understand you're an attractive business. Then they start to dive into what we would call business readiness, and the owner starts to get defensive because somebody's calling your baby ugly.
That's right.
You have to, in leadership, which I think is why it's the stuff that you guys do at Initiative One and the stuff that we teach at EPI relate so well, is because in my change and transition in the way I was thinking, I had to get comfortable with people calling my baby ugly, my leadership style, the culture that we had created. And I think, to your point, and people can see it, particularly the audience, if you haven't listened to part 1 of our discussion, you should go back and listen to it, because this is, I think, this is the deep change that had to be created, is that it's okay that your baby's a little ugly, and we're going to continue to work on that, and we're going to continue to fix it. And it's no different than our certified exit planning advisors coming into people's companies and having to critique the owner's company, saying, hey, your baby's a little ugly, but let's continuously work. You have to have this. They're not calling, you always say it, and you said it in episode, the part 1 of our series here, it's not about your mama, right? We're actually trying to thrust something forward and have these deeper conversations. And so, to your point, you have to have this commitment to excellence, because it allows us to further conversation. But if you think about all the foundational stuff, you can't have any of that. You can't have a commitment to excellence without some of the foundational stuff, like put it on the table, a safe environment, deliver the mail to the right address, so on and so forth.
And that I'm enough.
And that I'm enough.
Because while you're talking to me, I got this little voice in my head going, oh, I screwed up again, and oh my gosh, he's attacking me. But when you're at enough, you're able to receive that information, and it's not a threat. It's meant as a gift to help you to win, to help you to get better. So another part of great principle-based companies, they have that safe environment, but there's high accountability. There is no such thing as improvement without accountability, and so you're constantly having these conversations. In order to, and I'll warn your listeners, you got to have very mature people, emotionally mature people who can function in that kind of environment. We all love accountability until we get it. And we, in our company, we would have people that they love accountability, But a true accountability culture is so rare, it is shocking when you get to it. Because, oh my gosh, you're actually talking about things that we have to improve. You actually mentioned something that I'm comfortable with, but it's not working here. And so there's constant anytime that we're off, we're going to talk about it.
Exactly right.
We're always going to talk about it.
That's why the rhythm of the company is so important, right? Because you have to have multiple spots where you take pause points and talk about these types of things.
And if someone's getting defensive, they can't fit the rhythm of your company. When we have people who come into our company and they'll say, oh, I want accountability. I love this culture. I love that there's nothing we can't talk about until you're talking about something that I need to get better at. And I've had people that they get defensive about it right away. And instead of me going to them and go, oh, we're sorry, we didn't want to make you feel uncomfortable, we lean in and say, look, I am more concerned about your defensiveness than I am about the mistake that you made. Because if you can't receive information and you keep making it about your mama, now we're dancing around you, and we don't do that dance here at EPI.
I think this is a critical point, too, because that stems from what you said earlier, and I want to focus on it because I do think it's a critical point. And it sounds kind of I always say this to you, like, you know, when we came through this, it's kind of like it's very it feels fluffy, but it's really not. It's like some really courageous and some really tough work to do. But when I was thinking about this, is you have to be able to look at your employee and say that, A, we feel that we hire the right people. You are talented and experienced, and you are the person that we wanted, and all the other emotional intelligence, your personality, all of that fits as well. So you are enough. I know it sounds, and maybe for our listeners, like some of I don't know, it makes some folks, I think it still makes my dad cringe a little bit, right? Because it sounds so soft, like you are enough. But it really starts with that. And I think it's such a critical thing to hear as an employee that, no, you're here because we want you here. You are enough. So this difficult conversation that we're having, or you've missed one of your goals or big rocks, or you swung and missed on this project, it's not okay. But we want to talk about the why so we could figure out how we fix this. And when I talk about the rhythm and then tie it to performance, that's the tie to performance. It's not that you're a failure. You are enough. So I'm wondering how we can fix it because you are the right person.
You're describing a fail-forward culture.
Exactly right.
As opposed to a avoid failure culture because you're going to get the crap beat out of you.
Exactly right.
Now, so let me tell you why accepting the fact and reminding yourself over and over that you are enough is so critical. I am known as an expert in teaching people to help have conflictual adult conversations in a powerful way. Yeah. But believe it or not, I am one of the most conflict avoidance people naturally that you'll ever meet. And whenever it's never easy for me to have those hard conversations. So I have to have a tough conversation with myself every time before I have, and that conversation looks like this, you know, if that person gets defensive or starts yelling at me, it's just information, Fred. It's information about them. And you made a commitment that you're going to have these conversations, so honor your commitment. And just because you're uncomfortable doesn't give you excuse to avoid your responsibility.
Exactly right.
And if she gets mad at me in this conversation, it doesn't diminish my value as a person. I'm having those conversations with myself all the time.
Well, that's also performance, right? Because you're saying, look, you're so self-aware that you know that you struggle with this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And that you kind of got to, like, it's like your warm-up to the big game, right?
Yeah, it's my pet talk to tell you, you made a commitment, and you got to do this, and you get little Freddie out of the way and have big Fred have this conversation. Yeah. And so that... It knowing that I'm enough gives me the courage to do the hard things that I don't want to do.
So now apply this. Step outside of the business. And so during this time, too, over the last 5 years, I got married like 2 years ago. Now apply those same concepts to your marriage?
Well, now you're going to have conversations with your spouse that you wouldn't have had before, or you're going to expect the spouse to have conversations with you.
Exactly.
And so it's the same thing. And you can even set up trust accelerators for your entire family.
That's what I said. Like, step outside of the business. And for the last hour and a half across 2 episodes, me and you have been talking about this foundational way of leadership. But now imagine leading your family, because we talk a lot about family systems inside of your program. Imagine leading your family and leading in your fatherhood or your husbandhood in that way as well. It's a powerful shift in mentality.
It will change. It's actually harder to do this at home.
Yeah,
than it is at work.
I would assume so.
You know, because they know all your Achilles heels.
Yeah.
They know what your triggers are. And you're so comfortable with them. And so it really is about having clarity of expectations of what we need from each other as a family. One of the trust accelerators in our family is no sniffing. My family knows that whenever I'm upset with something that they come to me and want to do, I will go like this. And I didn't even know it. I'd go, and what that meant was, Dad's not going to be open to this. He's already shut down. He's not going to listen to me. So no sniffing means be open and quit jumping to immediate conclusions. Stay curious and don't get furious. That's an example of how we have deeper conversations now with my teenage boys because they feel heard and they feel respected because I'm going to listen to them. That's an example of how trust accelerators can transform and create a really healthy, functional family.
You ever thought about taking your stuff, like in the next version of Initiative 1, and doing it in families?
We have couples that come to us all the time saying, could we go through this as a couple?
Do you do it?
Yeah, we do it.
Yeah, because I was applying it back into the EPI world. I think this would be really relevant as well in family business.
Absolutely.
You have a lot of family enterprise advisors at EPI, and it's really not a business. I think a lot of times in these like big family companies and like high net worth families, it's really not about the X's and O's of the business. It's really the family dynamic that's happening. Can you imagine what you could unlock in a family company and with that family unit?
So what happens we deal with a lot of family-based companies.
Of course.
If you do not have a conscious, determined, agreed upon way of relating to each other in conflict, misunderstanding, planning, problem solving, and working through issues, if you don't have a system, it will always fall back to the system of the family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it becomes the way of doing things for everybody.
That's just the way we did things. It's the way my dad did it. They did it.
That's right. And so the dysfunction of the family becomes the dysfunction of the entire company. And so you're actually overriding the parts of your family system that really weren't good. And you're overriding it by saying, no, we will have this conversation instead of pouting about it and punishing you because you said something to me that I didn't like. So I'm not going to speak to you for 4 days.
Or a year.
Or a year.
You know? Yeah.
And have you ever seen teams of teammates that they don't speak to each other, they avoid issues, they're not going to talk to and everybody knows it. And everybody's doing the dance, just like your family did the dance around certain people.
Well, now imagine multiple siblings in a business, right? Or not even multiple siblings that own a business together. Some of them are outside of the business, have no functional operational role, but they were gifted equity by mom and dad. Yeah. And then the other half of the family have, one's the president of the company, one's the plant manager, whatever that might be. So you have some in the business, some outside of the business, but all have to make business decisions on strategic planning, on entering new markets and things of that nature at their annual board meeting. When you bring together 5 siblings, 2 of them operate the business, 3 of them are outside of the business. Think about the under the table conversations that are going on there.
And that's why you have to have a set of criteria in how we make decisions. what we say no to and what we say yes to, it has to be bigger than our family system. I'm working with a company right now in Minneapolis. 5 siblings.
See, yeah.
2 of them are not in it. 3 are. And these 2 want to look at every decision that you make. How does that fit on how much money that I'm going to get at the end of the year?
Yeah.
So they see investment as taking it out of their pocket.
Right.
And the other 3 know if we don't invest, we're not going to continue to get better as a company, and ultimately it will impact our shares permanently year after year after year.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to dominate and whoever yells the loudest will win this conversation, they go back to the value system and say, wait a second. How does what you are wanting us to do or not wanting us to do, how does that fit our purpose? How does that fit our values? How does that fit our critical goals? And that's why principle always overcomes personality in family business situations.
When I hear you talk about it, and I'm trying to connect the dots for some of our SEPAs as well, is that when you go in and one of our family business advisors, or what might be called in the industry like a family enterprise advisor, hit some of these deep-rooted problems, they have a resource in Initiative 1 to bring in, right? Because you specialize in a function of the whole family business unit, right?
Yeah.
Where they might be talking more formal governance and systems that allow people to make more formalized decisions. But in order to even, I think, create the system, you need this the foundation, the bedrock of what we've been talking about over the last couple episodes on our show.
And you also need to be able to have, we call our process a practice space.
Right.
And so the first time as you're in a meeting with your family, people in your family that are part of it, and you've got 30 years of rhythm of doing it this way. And now you're falling back to that in the middle of the meeting. I can go, hey, time out, Joe. Well, we've never done it that way before, and that's not. Second, we agreed that we're going to do it this way. Okay, so come on, man, get back within our trust accelerators, because that's our non-negotiable, not how we used to do it or how you were taught to do it growing up.
Yeah.
And man, it takes a while to learn how to do that. And so we create an environment where we're teaching them and we're walking them through that, and they're practicing that using real life examples of what's going on in their company or in their family. So it has immediate, tangible, practical results. It's not coming in here doing a Mr. Rogers, well, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
I mean, it's rigorous.
It is.
It teaches a company, a bunch of leaders how to be courageous, how to be transparent, how to call an ace and a spade, how to create accountability cultures. But in accountability cultures, you have to have high communication.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the expectations have to be very clear. And that is why all the meetings that you have, the average person has to hear something 12 to 18 times before they internal it.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's why all those meetings are about.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, our quarterly goal is this. This is why.
Right.
And you're going, how many times do I have to keep saying this? About time 18 is when they finally are going, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Why didn't anybody tell me this before?
Exactly right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's why the rhythm of your company and how you're communicating our goals and how are we doing against those goals, that's part of accountability.
Exactly right. It is. It is. So in our closing moments, I wanted to go and talk to how to scale this stuff. And so it's taken us 5 years to really get here, from the foundational moment of meeting you all the way to today. And I think I mentioned at the top of the show, we talked to where we're heading, right? We want 20,000 SEPAs in the marketplace. We are going to more than double our revenue size over the next 3 years. And that equates to roughly going from about 50 employees to about 100 employees. And I don't want to say that I'm nervous about it, but one of the biggest, I think, exclamation points for me or yellow flags that I'm always coming back to is how do I take what we've created from 11 people to 50 and then continue to create it from 50 to 100. And obviously you've done this in the NFL, you've done this in privately held companies, you've done this with school districts which have thousands of people. You talk about something inside of in your program and book, this like crawling up this leadership ladder, and it's in your chapter around sustaining and growing these models. Can you elaborate on that a bit? And how do I take what I have at 50 and deliver it to 100?
Okay, first of all, it requires a mindset. It requires a mindset that the moment we quit working on ourselves and to quit growing as people and leaders. And I see this as a destination, and I see it as a program. I see it as a one-time thing that once we did it, we did it. It's got to be a mindset of continuous improvement and continuous evaluation, and that we never arrive. The greatest companies it's ironic, the companies that really need us will never call upon us because they're scared to death of being exposed. Or they don't understand the direction that if you have stagnant people cannot create a growing organization. And so you've got to create an environment and a mindset that we always expect you to be working on you. So there's got to be an investment mentality. This can't be viewed as an expense. It's got to be viewed as an investment. And so we're working right now with a grocery store company that when we first started working with them, they had a great culture, but they needed to scale it. And they had 8,000 employees. Now they have 12,000. They've gone from $896 million a year to $1.8 billion a year. And they had to learn how to scale it. So what you've done with us is you've accepted the way that we scale it. So every person that comes into your team in a leadership capacity has to go through the leadership transformation process. That introduces them to the common expectations, part of your culture that everybody has. It introduces a common language. It introduces the ability to equip them to function in that kind of culture. If you don't equip them, I'm telling you, they cannot succeed. It's going to be so shocking to them. And and then for those folks that are in a non-leadership role, you still have to expose them to the rules of engagement. That's where train the trainer comes in.
Exactly.
So there's different levels, but at some point, every person in your company is exposed to something within the Initiative One process. And it's got to be an ongoing commitment. And I had a person who said to me, I just don't understand the return on investment. I just don't understand the return.
Well, it was my dad when we first met.
Yeah.
I mean, now, granted, to Dad's credit, right? We just spent $400,000 pivoting our company. Then I said, Dad, I need another couple hundred. And it's 50-50. And Dad had asked me, he's like, what if I told you had to pay for the entire thing? Would you do it? And that was his aha moment that I said, yeah, sure. But it was another big investment. But then my dad had the same mentality when he first met you 5 or 6 years ago, which was show me the tangible numbers of how we're going to make this return.
So let's look at that. In losing 11 people, what would have happened to your company?
Well, you would have shut down. We
Your
would have been totally
company,
screwed.
we wouldn't be here today.
No.
And every person that you lose cost money. Number one, you got to pay someone. It takes time to find that person. That person is going to have a lag period once they get there.
6 to 8 months for us.
And so the lack of retention is a huge cost factor. Plus, If you have a culture that is high performing, that treats people like adults, that includes people in the decision making process, that expects them to work on their family life as much as they do working, who doesn't want to be a part of that? And what happens is your employees become your greatest talent agents. Hey man, we got something special here. And now your ability to attract greater talent and to retain that talent. Now they're performing. Look at what happened during COVID when you guys were able in 2 weeks to go from a model that you had done for years to make. That's like a manufacturing company starting an entire new service line and equipping people and starting up that plant in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
How much money did you all? How much money now comes to you all revenue because of your virtual process?
Exactly. I mean, it's huge.
That's called return on investment.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned too, like those people attract others, right? So like I'm just thinking about it live. Is the last 3 folks that I think we've hired that come to mind for me were all from an internal referral. Like, hey, I know this person, or hey, this is one of my family members, or hey, this is one of my friends. I know their character. They would thrive in an organization. They would thrive in an organization like this. So to your point, your own team starts to become like your own recruiters.
That's right.
And what a great thing, right? Is
Yes.
like if they love the place so much that they're inviting people in, and they're inviting not just friends, they're inviting like their husbands and wives, which is actually a little bit of a stress for me because like, oh, you're putting all your eggs in the EPI basket. But nonetheless, it's really an honor to have that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We have in our organization, we have 4 married couples.
You do.
in our top 16 employees.
Yeah.
But we are very clear about expectations.
Exactly.
And we talk about it, that when you get here, if you have an issue with me, that doesn't mean that you got an issue with Tracy.
Right.
And we're not going to be doing pillow talk about that. This is your issue with me, not your issue with Tracy.
Well, it goes back to your forms of communication, right? I mean, it's put it on the table, it's deliver the mail to the right address. That's why I think in an organization, obviously going back to Dad, who's obviously my business partner, and I go, hey, Dad, I want husbands and wives to work together. And Dad's 45 years of experience says, oh, hell no, like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But you bring, when we have these discussions, you bring them back down to the roots of who we are, right? We have this culture of purposeful growth. We have personal purpose. We have this mentality, this vision. We operate with this rhythm and this performance, which I frankly think allows us the ability to hire great people that are husbands and wives and cousins and brothers and sisters into that organization. Because to your point, if you and Tracy, and for the audience, Tracy is Fred's business partner and CEO of Initiative
and
One. And wife. If you go back home and have the dinner conversation about, can you believe that this person was doing, then that's delivering the mail to the wrong address and putting it back under the table. Can't have that. But you guys thrive because you have this communication process.
Well, if we're having one of those conversations at our dinner table, one of our teenagers is going to say, excuse me, Mom, have you delivered the mail to the why are you having this discussion with Dad?
Yeah.
I mean, and so, we had a situation recently where one of our key officers, his wife, left a career to come, and she's very talented.
Yeah.
And they moved up here.
Yeah, I know.
Put all their eggs in one basket.
Yep.
And within the first 3 weeks, there were some things of baggage that she was bringing from her previous career. And we sat down and had a conversation with her. She started crying like crazy and gets upset. And then the husband calls and says, wait a second, what's going on? Am I being left out of the loop? And why didn't you talk to me about it first before you talked to her? And we went, time out. And said, look, trust accelerators supersede any relationship here. and we're practicing what we preach, and you're being part of the drama. The reason
by
why
butting in, right?
Yeah, the reason why we didn't come to you is because we've said we're going to deliver the mail to the right address, and you're out of bounds, man. Get back in it, and that's how. And we deal with things at a crumb level before it becomes Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly.
And you have to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Tracy had to have the hard conversation. Wait a second, this defensiveness is not going to fly here. And wait a second, you jumping in, drama is getting 5 people involved in a 2-person problem. You just jumped in here. Do you trust us to deal with these issues or not? You do, and if this is the way it's going to be, this relationship's not going to work. We have those fluid, frank conversations. And once they become part of your rhythm, you're not offended by it.
Yeah.
You expect it to be coming.
Exactly. Well, Fred, we're back at the top of the hour. I appreciate you coming into Cleveland and spending a couple hours with us on the Exit Is Now podcast. If you want to learn more about Fred, you can see certainly the show notes, or just jump on our website at the Exit Planning Institute website to learn more about Fred and what he does. Fred, you've changed a lot of lives here at EPI, including mine, so I'm always deeply honored and grateful for you to come on and help us further, I think, the teachings of both what we have together.
Scott, I would say if you want to do something fun, go to my personal website, which is drfredjohnson.com.
Yeah.
It shows some of the folks, since our work has happened. I mean, it'll show you we're involved with CBS. We're involved with USA Today, the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. This stuff is going nationally.
It is.
And it'll give you so that website will give you a quick summary of what we do.
Cool. Fred, I appreciate it. And for all of our listeners, we'll be back on February 18th. So please listen and leave a review on all of your podcast platforms. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Scott.